Bruce Paddock has a very interesting theory about his brother and how many times he had been to the Mandalay Bay before with guns. So let's jump into that interview with Bruce Paddock that happened this morning. To set the scene for you, my assistant picked him up at his house this morning and drove him over here. Had to get him out of his wheelchair and back into his wheelchair. She wheeled him into our studio here on Ventura Boulevard, and he sat down for his first on-mic interview ever, and it got emotional very quickly.
Yeah, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning for my 2 o'clock medicine, and I saw that, that CNN and every channel had this shooting, and I looked again, and they said Stephen Paddock, and I said, what? So I called my mom, and my mom answered the phone, and I said, is that Steve? And she said, I guess so. And I asked her, was he sick like me? And she didn't want to talk about it. See, most of this interview is not going to go very well. And I don't expect a whole lot of this to be aired because of my feeling for other people. I care more about the people that were hurt and what it's got to be like to sit on the wrong end of a gun. Why they sell these weapons.
So what did she say as far as when you asked her whether he was sick?
She didn't want to talk about it. So I hung up, and I saw that he'd killed a whole bunch of people. And I realized that being sick like me wouldn't make you want to kill a bunch of people or even shoot at them.
So you think you kind of understand what was going on in his head?
That I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to presume what happened was pain and the loss of a lot of things. The loss of the ability to control everything because he was always the controlling brother. He's 7 years older than us and raised us, took care of us. He was the father. And he was always Mom's best choice. He had the bright red Volkswagen all the neighbors wanted. And he was always in school.
So he was the good kid?
I guess. Yeah. He was the one always punishing us for being the bad ones. I don't know if that makes him the good one or not. But we never got punished by our mother. It was always Steve or a combination of Steve and Pat.
But you said he was controlling. What do you know about his controlling nature?
It's his dream. His dream to have everything.
Money-wise.
I mean, objects. He always had to have, looking up at the crystal on the counter, tops going, yeah, all that's mine when in the inheritance. When she passes away, everything's mine, all in his mind that the whole world was his. And he went out and earned it. What he earned, he earned himself. He had his first apartment building. I think he was still working for the IRS and had his first apartment in North Hollywood. Bought the building. Took out the central water system and put in water heaters in every apartment.
How was he able to afford that building? Did he have help?
Yeah, he's always had my mom.
And she had her money from where?
My mom's always worked for a living. She worked for Semco, Scientific Engineering.
But as a secretary, right?
Yeah, well, she was a partner. Ended up being a partner, ended up taking a bunch of the stock.
Oh, so she made some significant money from that.
She's always had money.
Yeah.
She was the one that bought the Volkswagen. She bought my first car. She's always taken care of us.
And what about from your father? Did you guys receive any money from the father?
How could we receive money from him? He was in prison.
Well, but then he came out and became Bingo Bruce.
And what was that? After we were all 21.
Uh-huh. So basically there was no business ventures with your father among any of you guys.
Steve and Pat never met my father. It was just me and Eric that went up to Oregon and met him.
Well, Stephen, you mean since you were a child? Because I think, wasn't Stephen like 7 when he went to jail? Something like that?
I was like 2.
Yeah.
Or 2. So it'd be pretty hard for me to comment on something like that.
So you have no memory from him as a child?
None.
Stephen, you think may or may not have had some memory?
He never mentioned it to me.
Uh-huh.
We were raised believing he was dead.
And then
we never talked about him.
Then how did you find out where he was?
Well, one day my mom called me. I was at my girlfriend's house in Granada Hills, and she called me from the Sun Valley house and told me that I had to come over. And I told her I didn't want to, and she told me, you got to come over. And she started crying, so I went over there, and she decided she'd spring that on us because he, I guess, was leaning on her that he was going to spring it on us, so she thought she would tell us she'd lied to us our whole lives.
So she had told you that he had passed away?
Yeah. You know, strange things happened with her boyfriend from Semco, the owner, telling us, you know, that he was going to start hair plugs for men or a hair factory because... And I said, why would you do that? He said, well, you're going to be bald like your father. I said, how do you know my father?
She slipped up.
And he said, well, he'd seen pictures. And there was always that thing in my mind because I was raised being told, you're just like your father. And as a child, you think that's a good thing. But as you realize tone of voice, it's not a good thing.
What do you think she meant by just like your father?
Because every time I got into trouble, I was just like my father.
Did you guys have any father figure growing up? Any stepfathers, or she have boyfriends or anything?
No, Sam from Semco was the only boyfriend she ever had. Mm-hmm. And that was just, he'd come over once in a while and brush his teeth with a washcloth in the sink. That's all I remember.
With a washcloth? Yeah,
well, in the morning he'd be...
I guess he didn't have a toothbrush there, so...
Yeah, just whatever. I mean,
what was Semco, by the way? What kind
Scientific Engineering and Manufacturing Corporation.
What did they make?
Thermocouples for aircrafts.
Oh, wow. So it was a significant business.
Yeah, well... I would presume so. I was pretty young.
So he's the one
paid the bills.
He was the one that tipped you off that your father was alive.
No, he didn't tip me off that he was alive. He tipped me off that there were pictures of him that I realized then that there were no pictures or anything of him in the house or in any of the pictures. There was a picture of a red Corvette, I think. Was as far as I knew anything about my father. And
okay, so how did you track him down?
I didn't. My mom told me that he was alive and that he was living in Oregon and that he wanted to talk to us. And I said, well, you got my phone number.
You got to tell me, what was it like to learn that your father was alive when you had thought all this time that he was dead?
You don't want to hear what I think.
It was good thoughts or bad thoughts?
Well, it's not very good when you find out your mom's been lying to you your whole life.
Mm-hmm. So you're obviously upset with her, but on the other hand...
I didn't talk to her for 25 years.
Oh, wow. Because of that?
That answers that.
Yeah. But you decided you want to meet him.
I don't know if it's that I decided I wanted to meet him or I wanted him to meet me. I think it's more I wanted him to meet me. I don't want to meet people. I want them to know who I am.
And how old were you at the time?
21.
Okay. So who found his well, he had reached out apparently wanting to meet you guys?
Yeah.
And Stephen wasn't interested in meeting him.
No, Steve and Pat were all on their own. I mean, Pat, I think, was in the Air Force then, and Steve was many years older. He was all, he walked out of the house. We all walked out of the house. There was nothing to discuss.
She told all four of you at the same time?
Yes. She got us all together. I was gone from the family at that time and out on my own, living my own life. She had to, like I said, she had to twist my arm.
Do you remember what Stephen's reaction was?
No. I didn't look at anybody else. I've always been the loner. I lived in the garage. I've been a mechanic my whole life. I was more interested in picking stuff out of people's trash and taking it apart to figure out how it worked.
So you and Eric go up to Oregon, right, to meet him?
Yeah, we took my dually up there.
You took what up there?
My dually.
Oh, that's a car?
My truck.
Okay. I don't know a dually.
Dually's like a truck that you pull a boat with. Big truck with dual rear tires.
Oh, wow. So that must have been some trip. You and your brother driving up from L.A. up to Oregon knowing you're about to meet your father for the first time.
Yeah. More on a scenic venture. It didn't last long.
It sounds like a movie, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean it didn't last long?
We hung out a day or so, and he ran his mouth about being an outlaw and wanting to show me pictures and this and that of his life, and I wanted nothing to do with it.
There's all these things that he apparently claimed that he had been: a Dixieland band singer, a pilot, an auto racing crew chief, a member of the Chicago Bears, survivor of the World War II minesweeping, a wrestler named Crybaby, who traveled with Gorgeous George.
I've never heard any of that.
No?
No. I heard he was a 3-time loser.
So he didn't. Well, what did he? When you first met him, was he at the bingo hall?
No, he was at a trade. Oh no, we met him. He came and met us on one of the interchanges from Highway 5 to the road that went off to his house, I believe, in Springfield. I don't remember what interstate or what highway it was.
At like a coffee shop?
No, just at a corner. Just on a dirt lot on the corner of the highway.
The first time you meet him is by the side of the road, basically?
Correct.
Well, do you remember why that was the arrangement?
You didn't have Google Maps, and I'm not into map books. And
right.
I told him that, I called him and told from the side of the road. We didn't have cell phones, so I called him from the side of the road and told him where we were, and he said it's going to take so-and-so amount of time, and I'll meet you on the corner here and there, and then you'll follow us in.
So did he explain to you why he was not in your lives?
Well, I didn't need to explain anything. I had already had my mind made up on who he was. I didn't go up there for money. I worked for GM. I had everything I wanted. I worked 12, 14 hours a day and made money that nobody else had, being a mechanic and doing what I wanted to do.
So what did you say to him?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, were you letting out anger toward him?
No, there was no hostility. It's just listening to him talk, taking in as much of it as you can swallow, and pretty much walking away from it.
Uh-huh. And what kind of things was he saying?
Oh, I don't remember, so many years ago. Like I said, the only things that stick out in my mind are that he's getting out these, I don't know, pictures, photo albums or whatever he had. I didn't even really look at them. And I was drinking a beer sitting on a chair in the living room, and I think Eric might have looked at him, and he had made some comment that he wasn't a criminal, he was an outlaw, and that was pretty much all I needed. There's no remorse for what he did or not raising the family, going and holding up a bank for a few $1,000s to go to Vegas and have a good time. There's not a whole lot to say to something like that.
So no tears shed on your side?
No.
And what about his side?
Well, he wasn't happy when I tore his house up.
What happened there?
He had gone to the bingo parlor or something, and the phone rang, and my girlfriend, Ronell, had left a message on his machine that so-and-so and this happened or that happened, and I had never known they were talking, except for when he came down here. They had talked a little bit, and I guess they'd made some decision to buy some stuffed animals or something off a container.
Who had talked?
Ronell, this girl I was living with.
And she had talked with who?
With my father, or Benjamin, whatever you want to call it, Bruce.
Well, what name was he using when you met him? Was he using
Bruce Erickson.
Bruce Erickson. So you guys had the same name at that time?
No. There's only one Bruce.
There you go.
So, his name's Benjamin Hopkins Paddock. That's how I know him.
So you've confused me. How is it that your girlfriend was communicating with your dad?
Well, that's part of the story we're going to leave out.
Okay.
But he came down here because some things had happened in my life. And after we had met, he came down here. We met like 3 times. The first time was when I went up there. The second time's when he came down here. And then the third time I ended up there again because some things had happened in my life. And she had contacted him, or he had contacted her, and they reached out. And instead of telling me what they were doing, they were playing games. The phone rang. It was her on the phone, left a message. I tore up his place and went over to a girl I was seeing in Oregon.
Gotcha. So that was the third time that you saw him.
Yeah. Then he showed up at her house, pissed off, and you can imagine just by talking to me for 2 minutes, I don't take anybody getting in my face. It takes about a second.
Did you guys get physical with each other?
No. People don't make that mistake.
Was he a big guy, strong guy?
Yeah, he was pretty big. He weighed like 336 pounds.
Wow.
But that doesn't make you strong.
So, but he was kind of trying to get back involved in your life, it sounds like.
No. I think he wanted me to get involved in his life. Because of my background and being able to fix anything I touch or investigate how to do it, that people are always reaching out for that ability. Mm-hmm. And he had bingo parlors and opened up more and wanted exhaust fans and all kinds of stuff set up to run these businesses. Instead of going out and paying somebody to do it, he would reach out and try to get me to do it. But
so did you do some for him?
I hung out a few days there, but like I said, this time with my father wasn't something I was looking forward to doing. It was more of I had some problems down here. I needed to get away, and I've always made bad decisions. Going up there wasn't a good one.
So that third time that you saw him, was that the last time?
That was the final straw, yeah. There was no conversation after he came over to the girl's house I was staying with up there.
What did he do there?
He came to the door, knocked on the door, and wanted to know what happened. And I told him what happened, and he turned around and walked away. He wanted to know why his house was all torn up, and I told him.
You were pissed off with him communicating with your girlfriend.
Or my ex-girlfriend, or whatever you want to call her.
Right.
You want to play games.
So after that, no more communication with him?
No. I heard from Pat that Pat went and buried him.
In Texas?
I have no idea where it happened.
Do you know where he went after Oregon?
No. I heard he went to Mexico, but it's just people's talking.
He had a girlfriend up there, right?
Yeah, she's the one that turned him in, I guess. That's what he told me.
When he was on FBI's Most Wanted.
Yeah, well, he was living up there and using my name. I presume because it's a great name.
My favorite performer has named that.
Springsteen?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'll stick with Ozzy.
More your speed, huh?
Generals gathered in their masses.
So as far as you know, Stephen had no communication with him?
No. Steve had no communication with really any of us after.
So you were talking about the money that he made in buying the apartment building. He had help from his mom, no help from Dad, obviously.
He had help from the IRS. He worked for the IRS.
Right. But how about, as far as you know, was all his business above board and legal? Do you think that he engaged in any illegal activity?
Speculation.
Yeah. What would you speculate?
Ask and answered.
You've been in court before.
Never. Watch a lot of Judge Judy. There's a plug for Judge Judy.
Well, at some point he got into business with Eric, right?
Who?
Your brother Stephen.
Not that I know of.
No? Well, when Eric was interviewed in front of his house, he basically says that Stephen helped make him a wealthy man. It sounded like they went into some business ventures.
He doesn't sound too wealthy to me if he's running his mouth like that.
Yeah. What did you think of his interview?
Well, I'd have killed him if I was there.
Was your mom upset with that interview?
My mom doesn't listen to any of it. She has no idea what's going on. She's locked in her house, scared to death.
And she's about 90?
Could be.
How is her health, considering she's 90?
I talked to her, so she's still talking.
Yeah, and she's 100% there mentally, at least?
Yeah, she sounds like she's 20.
Wow.
At least mentally.
When was the last time you saw her?
Long, long time ago.
So is she?
She lived in Temecula.
Is she in assisted living now?
No, she lives in a house supposedly somewhere in a gated community, and Eric must live there too because he takes care of her.
Uh-huh.
That's what I understand. He takes her to the doctor. I don't know.
So other than that one conversation you had with her that night about the shooting, is the subject come up with her since?
No, she hangs up if you talk about it.
Well,
there will be no communication about that at all.
You could
even
imagine.
Telling her that I wanted to talk to you guys and reach out and convey my sincerest condolences to the people that were families were destroyed by what he did.
And we've spoken to many of them, and I think that they will genuinely appreciate what you said, you know. And we know that they're all searching for answers and looking for closure, and they've told us that finding out why this happened is important to them to get closure on it.
I mean, I hate to make it sound so simple, but like Phil and I talk about, guns are a tool. When you sell tools at Home Depot, people use that hammer to hammer nails. Now, you sell somebody a gun, it's a tool. They're going to shoot somebody with it.
He had a long-standing love of guns, as far as you know?
I presume so. I mean, how many people can buy guns like that?
He had plenty of money.
You know anybody that?
I don't know anybody.
Plenty of money in buying guns like that do not run parallel. Why somebody would say something like that? Why would you even think something like that? But as I'd say it, people with plenty of money go out and help other people. They don't go out and buy guns.
Yeah.
People with billions of dollars, Bill Gates, people with Oprah, they go out and help other people. They don't go out and buy guns and put them in their closet and help themselves. Money's a disease. Guns are a tool. When you put that disease and that tool together, we pretty much see what happens. Why do you think all these kids now are standing up against the system? Because the system's not standing up for them. Why would you allow people to buy weapons? Why in this society? You know, because it's Nevada? We don't let people buy weapons here. When I was a kid growing up, there was a gun store on every corner. You know why there's not anymore? Because every gun that was sold killed somebody. How many guns do you own?
0.
You see where I'm going with this? The microphone is your tool. You need to use the microphone to put an end to these fools that are allowing people to buy those weapons.
But what does Stephen need the tool of guns for? He seemed to have plenty of money and everything else.
Because he didn't have anything else. Why do people do stupid things? Because they don't have the right thing to do. He was off on his own. He lived his own life. Sure, he had money. That money ran out. You can only put so much money in Vegas, no matter how good at pushing a pencil you are. Sooner or later, Vegas is going to win. The odds are against you. You're supposed to go there, have a good time with a couple $100 and go home. You're not supposed to go there every weekend in your airplane and spend all the money that you're making, especially when you have a partner in this business venture.
Meaning is your mother.
Look at it any way you want to. We're going to keep her out of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
She did what she could. She raised 4 boys on her own back and did the right thing. We all stepped out of the boundaries, probably because our DNA came from somebody that stepped out of the boundaries. She probably hates herself for that. She's a girl. She made mistakes. She made it better by working hard and raising the 4 boys to the best of her ability. You can't put anything on her. He went out and did what he did over hookers and coke. There's only so much of that you can put up with in your life. You know, I had my girlfriends when I was younger. I did what I wanted to do. He just realized it a little too old. I mean, we can't even go into that. But did you ever interview her?
Who? His girlfriend?
Yeah.
No. Do you know where she is?
I don't know. But did he get even?
Get even?
She hurt him, he hurt her. Pretty much the game in life, isn't it?
You think she broke up with him?
Asked and answered.
We took a break. My assistant took him downstairs to have another smoke with him. I was concerned that might be the end of the interview, that he wouldn't come back. But he came back and told us a whole lot more. I asked him whether his brother had gotten all of his money legally. You won't believe how evasive his answer was regarding his brother and how he got all of his money. And I also asked him about the ISIS connection, whether it was possible that his brother had converted to Islam a few months before the shooting. All of that and a whole lot more on the next episode.